Hello, I'm Doran Ellen Beldotan in Sfaten, Israel. This discussion will be conducted in English, but I will need Hebrew in order to justify and prove what I'm saying. And so for those who don't speak Hebrew, I will give explications so we'll all be on the same page. This discussion is going to be from a very Jewish standpoint, although I think that others can benefit from it as well. But the Hebrew helps us to understand the depths of this matter. And I was born this way, so it comes naturally to address family matters from a Jewish perspective. There's a rabbi by the name of Sheshlet who recently uploaded an excerpt from a longer discussion that he delivered some 2 years ago. The excerpt is just a few minutes long. It is the most sensitive, realistic, emotionally intelligent, well-articulated discussion of the subject of the extreme forms of emotional abuse that occurs in families that I have ever heard. That excerpt in turn is linked to the original discussion, which, especially if you have teenagers, you may very well like to listen to. There's a reason why emotional incest occurs in families, and it is devastating. I don't think that it is the worst kind of incest. I think that the physical incest is the worst. The emotional is really bad because it's insidious and you're not sure what happened. But the physical expression also involves the emotional expression. And yet and still, emotional incest is incest for all intents and purposes, with all of the wreckage that goes along with it. Now, the very reason why it exists is the reason why, when it is healed, the healing is so profound and so comprehensive. And it is the most classic example of what the rabbis very correctly teach, is that when we do teshuvah, when we do repentance, we heal everything that came before as well, everything that led up to it. And we also heal the future, which is always in the present, as I've spoken about, Bezrat Hashem. So, in response to Rabbi Taub's discussion, and I want to say to him, Shchoyach, in Hebrew that means Yeshar Koach, and address it. In advance of this lecture, I have made a number of videos of chilufim, of substitution values, which show clearly that all of the family relations are contained one within the other. classic example is the two pronouns, and this can go on and on. I'm just going to give it a very, very, very small discussion of it. There's more in my videos, and yet there's more. It's infinitely deep. On an introductory level, let it be said that all of the personal pronouns of I and we, which are translated as I and we, and I'm not sure that that's even a good translation in Hebrew, which are anu is one of the forms of we, אנחנו is another one of the forms of we, אני is one of the forms of I, and anochi is one of the forms of I. All of those forms contain two letters in common, which is an aleph and a nun. If we look at the nun, we should know immediately that's what's being talked about is a unity, a comprehensive, not concept, but existence. Because the Hebrew letter nun, equaling 50 as it does, equals the word kol, kaf lamed, which are 20 and 30 together. So anytime we see the letter nun, or a substitution value of the letter nun equaling 50, we are looking at something that is kol. And that letter nun exists in the two forms of I and the two forms of we in Hebrew. So immediately we should understand that we're not talking about absolute individuation. The two letters that it has in common, that the I, two forms of I and two forms of we have in common, are the nun and the aleph together. Anu, אנחנו, אני, אנוכי. The value of nun plus aleph together is 51. And that is the value of the Hebrew words imi, which means my mother, and also ummi, which means my people or my nation. Nation not in the sense of a political nation, nation in the sense of a cultural and physical nation. So we cannot use any of the personal pronouns in Hebrew without immediately calling in one's mother and one's entire nation. I'm going to link to various videos that I wrote in which there are substitution values. Herein, let it be said that the word ani, meaning I, contains the word avi, which means my father, and it contains the word achi, which means my brother. The pronoun anochi, meaning I, and which that is the word that opens up the 10 commandments, the 10 pronunciations, anochi, is le imi, to my mother, or le umi, to my people. So we cannot have a situation in which we're speaking in Hebrew and we are not referring to all of our relatives, our entire people. Yes? The word anochi, I equaling 81 as it does, is also kol shoshelet, which means every dynasty. None of us are completely individuated. I also wanted to mention, and this is also very important, the expression avotai vitseetzei, meaning my progenitors and my descendants, is equal to 617, which is habrit. That is the covenant. Yes? We are all, our entire history and future. I don't like to use the word future, because the future in Hebrew has the word hata in it, which means now, and that same ayin tav hey 475 is avotenu. So in your present, you're all of our, meeting our fathers, our progenitors. They're all here with us in the present. The healthy and correct dissolution of the ego is not a nullification of the ego. When people tell you to nullify your ego, what they're saying to you is nullify yourself to me. What they want to do is supplant your ego with theirs. The correct dissolution of the ego is the dissolution of the experience in which we only experience ourselves as separated individuations, and we become capable of experiencing ourselves both as an individuation and as an integral part of the totality of everything that led up to our existence and will come as a result of it. We have to be both individuated and part of the entirety at once. It's getting deep. When violence occurs in a family, and it occurs, as we know, all too often, what is actually happening is, and this is why it is so devastating, it's because everyone has abused everyone. So that when our parents abuse us, we have been abandoned by our entire history. And it devastates us down to our core. More horrible than that, perhaps, is the eventual realization when we realize that we are also part of that collective, that when someone in our family has abused us, we too have had a hand in that. We hurt ourselves. Okay? That's the hard part to accept. There's the idea that it's not your fault is simply not true. It's your fault too, if you were hurt. And if you were hurt, everybody else in your entire history was hurt. That's the downside of it. It gets brighter, hold on. And then we suddenly realize that if, as an individual personality, I am representing, I am fronting, I am including within my being the totality of my history and my future, now if I forgive the individuated personality who hurt me and myself for allowing this to happen, I am also forgiving the entirety. And my ability to be able to forgive is coming from the totality. And so when we forgive those who hurt us, we forgive that individuated personality, ourselves, and everyone else who let that happen, understanding that they are also allowing us to forgive and to heal. If I hurt someone, and when I was, let's say, abused by someone in my family, I was party to that abuse. I do not have the right to forgive myself directly. I cannot. I have no right to. But if I forgive everyone else in my biological and experiential continuity, by forgiving them because I am included in them, I am forgiving myself too. That is the kosher way of forgiving yourself, not by letting yourself off the hook for what you did to yourself, to another person. And so we forgive them, and in so forgiving, we forgive ourselves indirectly as well. At that point, we become fully capable of allowing ourselves to experience ourselves as the totality that we are. Because if there's any shame in us, the way in which we deal with shame is by hiding it. By hiding it, the only way that we can hide something that may have happened to us or something that we did is by isolating ourselves into one obdurate personality. I put myself in a tiny box. I don't let myself experience anybody else as being part of me or me being part of them. So this is a very radical kind of healing. Those who choose to forgive are the entire totality choosing to forgive. This is the truth of the matter of teshuvah, which is repentance. And I should say that I have been speaking about one's particular bloodline in the course of this video, but it most certainly can be extended to the other dynasties in the human family. And when we can see things this way, we understand how complicated wars are. That we are our enemy and they are us. And that somebody has to stop the madness, and you say, okay, I will stop the madness. It stops with me. Then when from that position we allow ourselves to come out of the shame, then we realize that we got the strength to be able to make that statement from the totality, and the totality has been healed. Thank you for listening. The videos that I've mentioned will be linked to in the description, and there are substitution values for different pronouns and familial relationships. It's nowhere near comprehensive. It can't possibly be. But I've done my best at an introduction to this understanding. Thank you for listening, and thank you, Rabbi Tao, for your understanding and your sensitivity and your bravery talking about it. Shkoyach.